and I know you very well. We've been working together for many years. My question for you is, are you still happy to be in this industry? Are you
absolutely
that we are moving forward, or you are frustrated?
You know, absolutely. I love that. So probably that has become my comfort zone, as we say. I know the industry, I know its construction, I love people, I love seafarers, I know their mentality. So I love sea, I love ships. So for me, every time I go on board, like, you know, I'm getting back to my childhood where I know smells and everything. So the thing is that probably the new thing I've learned about the industry, and that's what I realized probably something like 10 years ago, that the industry itself is not really consolidated. I mean, each company has its own policies, different types of ships, different trends, different sectors, you know, sometimes same problems. You understand that that's the thing. So yeah, and huge perspectives, and for centuries it has been, you know, this year I know that seafarers were adapted, yeah, by the IMO as a key workers, but this industry has been the key industry, to my point of view, for centuries. That's the thing.
That's a good one, thank you. Now, Christian, back to you, because your organization actually put a slogan in front of me, and I'm just making sure that I read it. Mental health in 2021, great expectations on organizations. When I heard it, I thought, wow, for the first time, somebody is not pushing back on me, seafarer, but is actually pointing fingers and saying, what can we, that's how I understand that, what can we organizations do for our people? And in your opening, Salvo, you already mentioned seafarers are human beings. Well, thank you for recognizing it. So over to you.
Yeah, I think the point Alex makes is a really good one, that, you know, the industry is fragmented in its approach sometimes to mental health and well-being, and that every company will have its own different approach to mental health and well-being. Some approach it, you know, very seriously, and there is a top to bottom appreciation. Some organizations view it slightly differently, will take a less, a lighter touch approach. What I think will happen in 2021, people will now be looking at organizations and companies and saying, look, what are you doing to implement a course and a series of mental health and wellbeing measures amongst your organizations? So question one, what are you doing? And then question two, how are you implementing these and how are you testing these? And I think it's commendable that seafarers are rightly being recognized, but I think the focus is going to shift not just on the individual and how they can, you know, manage themselves, which they absolutely should be able to with the right help and support, but also what are organizations doing to create that atmosphere and to make mental health a lasting conversation. And Corona in 2020 have been an exceptionally difficult time for everybody. I hope that it is the catalyst for real change, and real change which doesn't just make mental health and well-being something which is, you know, on trend for a few years, but something which organizations proactively make part and parcel of their fabric, which they take active steps to make part of their makeup going from top to bottom, and which becomes a permanent fixture. So I think the great expectation there is that organizations now have to take it seriously, but also take the active steps to implement it. And that can only be a good thing.
Thank you. Alex, over to you. Although I think I'll start asking questions to both of you, getting into our discussion, and I hope we will not all agree, okay? So I welcome controversy here, please. Alex is known for building resilience in seafarers, individuals, but also now stepping a bit wider and trying to build resilience in shipping companies. Alex, how are you doing with that? Are you seeing progress? Are you happy with it? Or you reckon there is some issues and we need to address them?
First of all, you know, I love that the maritime industry has admitted that there is a high need to take care of mental health. That's the main idea. So for the time being, you know, the whole industry paid a lot of attention for the physical health. And you know that there are rules, there are, you know, different policies, MLC includes that. However, mental health, you know, remains somewhere outside until 2018 when the UK Chamber of Shipping, you probably remember, has admitted that there is a high need for dealing with mental health, and has recommended their members to take you know, some sort of policies with regard to mental health on board of ships. So for me, it was the first great step forward, because there was a first step to create a trend. So now I expect that dealing or taking care of mental health, which is a part of our resilience, will become a trend for the whole industry. More and more companies now have their own protocols, have their own policies, or even have professional counselors or psychologists within their office staff who can advise seafarer, who can advise family, and who takes care of mental health of office workers. And I see, you know, that's a great step forward. Other companies, they do prefer to invite, let's say, other organizations or trainers to make trainings, both for seafarers and officers. And that's the main idea, because it is absolutely useless, for instance, to give the crisis response training for the top rank officers on board, but not giving the same or similar training for office workers, because the communication, there's going to be a break in communication in case anything happens. So, and again, I see more and more companies, for instance, approaching me when they see there's a big trouble on board of the ship. They prefer to engage professionals, and that's a good news. And also, I need to say that it's much easier to work with the office staff and with seafarers if they have been trained before any crisis or before any situation. Then we use common language. Then they know what they may expect from me, and I know the team. I know what they're gonna work, and especially if during the trainings, that's what we usually do. Besides the training, besides the theory, we also design protocols, we design policies, and we train how it may work, okay? And also sometimes we even give a live active call between office and seafarers, and what would be my role in this situation. So in this sense, I'm happy that there are a lot of progress, which I see. And I mainly work here in Ukraine and in other countries with Russian-speaking people, but also, you know, I see trend here as well.
Okay, very good. Christian, I heard you talking about mental health and using a very good analogy with broken arm. Could you tell us that again? I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think what Alex says is really interesting, because I think we're reaching a stage where mental health is seen as an equivalent importance to physical health. And in the same way, if I fall over outside my flat and I break my arm, if I will go to a professional medical person, a doctor, a nurse, because I know I've suffered an injury, and professional treatment, because if I don't have that, then it could have consequences in the future. Now, at the moment in mental health, we're not there yet, where if somebody has an issue or they see somebody else, a colleague, a friend who has an issue, they don't have any support, professional support on demand, which they can go to in order to solve that. And mental health can be, it's exactly as important as health. And in many ways, if it goes wrong to start with, the lasting consequences are extremely severe. So, if I break my arm, I will go to a doctor. I won't go to my witch doctor. I'll go to somebody who can take an X-ray and tell me how I need to put it in plaster. With mental health, I should be able to do exactly the same. And we don't have that yet. And I think the point Alex makes is really interesting about organisations. And the question is, how do we as an industry not just make mental health a topic which everybody recognises, but also provide the same support within the organisation, onshore and at sea, in order to make that help and support accessible. And I think that's super important. I think we are reaching that stage, but we need to make sure that mental health, is on the same level as physical care, because it's a great unknown. And maybe that's what scares people when we talk about mental health. You can't look at an X-ray of somebody's well-being or mental health and diagnose exactly what the issue is in the same way you can with physicality. So we need to reach that stage. We might not ever reach that insight we have from an X-ray, but certainly having those conversations, understanding what the issues are, what they could be, and consequences is the place we absolutely need to get to.
Okie dokie. I'm just sending you a text message. Just read the chat, okay? Okay, very good. And Alex, now on hearing what Christian was saying, anything resonates with you?
Absolutely, I do absolutely agree. The thing is, we've been telling for years that the topic of the mental health is a little bit stigmatized. What do I mean? Each of us has a right to get a flu or other disease, and we would dare to go to our boss and admit, I've got a flu. Can I go home or take a leave? I need sometimes to recover. However, none of us would dare to say, I feel myself depressed, or I have bipolar, or whatever. So it's something like, it's a taboo. We never admit we have, mental problems. And usually when we are talking about mental health, people believe that, it goes without saying. It has been set up by default, in our system, in our brain. And they believe that mental health is a lack of mental disorder. However, mental health is not just a lack of mental disorder. It's multi-layer notion, multi-layer definition, which also relates whether we're living in a harmony, what we think about ourselves, about our world, about the world, about our social surrounding, and about our future. So, taking care of our mental health is essential part, because either we are struggling with the whole world around, or we are living in a harmony, we're enjoying our life, and that affects our body. That's true. And especially in time of hardship, like for instance, the whole world faced coronavirus. And I understand that's a sexy topic now, which probably, makes everyone anxious. So, and that's the high time. And many people now are approaching and saying, I'm constantly thinking over COVID, but that's a part of your mental health, which affects your body. That's a quick example.
Very good. But if you think about us, especially Eastern Europeans, but hey, everybody at sea, we are macho. We are alpha male. I don't think I've ever had a situation when somebody would volunteer to come and say, sorry, Captain, I've got a flu. I come on the bridge, the guy has a running nose, I can see fever and everything. Are you okay? Oh, absolutely, sweating man says. Because that's what it is, isn't it? And now you are asking me to come to you and say, oh, I feel a bit lonely. Oh, I think a bit. That's a long way to go. Long way to go. Christian, do you see that? You are muted, Christian.
Sorry, yeah, I do agree with that. And I think there's a big educational piece here. And that is how do we transform people's perceptions from mental health to be seen not as something which, you know, demonstrates a lack of alpha maleness or lack of macho-ness, but where talking about it actually shows a lot of strength and it shows a lot of courage. And I think, you know, there are various different approaches to this. I think from an organizational point of view, somebody who is open about their mental health and can receive the right support and treatment, you know, arguably can make a more effective and more efficient contribution to the work. They will be able to work with a clearer mind, clearer focus and clearer goals. I think the challenge for us is, you know, in individuals, how do we inspire people to that culture and to have a different view of it? And that's not an easy change to make. And it does depend upon so many different factors, such as nationality, language, history, the crew you're with. And it will take time. It certainly will take time. But I guess in the same way that, you know, nowadays, if somebody has a physical health problem, people say, oh, you look like you're walking funny. Are you okay? Or you look like you've broken your arm. You should go and find help with that, which will persuade that individual to go and seek help for it. We should be in the same position with mental health. So everybody on board that vessel should be looking out for each other and saying, oh, he or she doesn't quite look right. Are they okay? Should you go somewhere? But as long as we keep it in lots of pots and compartments, it's always going to be a very difficult conversation. So that's the challenge for us, to make it an accepted and a normal topic of conversation.
Now, gentlemen, I don't expect you to fix that, but I would like you to be aware of something which I'm going to share with you. Seafarers are like actors. We work on a set. We don't call it set, we call it a contract. Very much the same as actors do. We've got our agents, the very same way actors have. I am contracted to do one trip and then I'm fired. Now imagine there is a long list of people waiting for my space. There is no such a thing like shortage of seafarers. Don't believe what you hear. So am I likely to come to you and say, oh, well, you know, I'm not very well today. You would say, oh, that's fine. I've got 22 waiting for your place. Go and come back when you are ready. Now, don't you feel that because of this environment, seafarers are very unlikely to admit, probably more unlikely than somebody who is employed on a long term and he feels that there is a genuine appreciation of his, her health by the employer. How to deal with it? First of all, I just wanted to make you aware of that because many psychologists who are coming from shore and jumping into helping and assisting seafarers do not realize that very genuine fact. And we need to tackle it. Obviously, InterManager is trying to persuade our members that this is the area where we, Columbia's, V-ships, Bernard Schultes of this world, need to make a difference. But on the other hand, we have clients called owners, and owners are saying, V-ship, Bernard Schulte, Columbia, if you don't want to do what I want you to do, I'll find another one. And it's called capitalism. So in this capitalistic world, I don't envy your task, not the task of a psychologist, but the task of a person who is trying to help psychologists to reach to seafarers. So now question for you, gentlemen. Alex already pointed out stigmatization. I am actually pretty proud of our industry because I do dig out of the industry at times and I look at other industries. And look, hand on a heart, I think shipping industry is doing well, even better than many other industries when it comes to recognizing we've got a problem, Houston, and trying to address that. Now, how can you help us, both of you, not to stigmatize seafarers, not to tell us you are abnormal because you are working at sea. There is something wrong with you if you want to disappear from your family and so on and so forth. How to reverse that and say, actually, guys, you are okay and you can be better if you do. Enough of me saying, Alex, over to you.
Yeah, that's a good question, and let's get back to two examples that you gave. I mean, one example is of someone having a running nose and standing on the bridge and pretending he is fine. Another example, so let's assume he or she is ill, and if he doesn't start treatment, then he has a complications. True? Yeah. So, we know a lot of people who work until they fall down and die, you know, having different disease or whatever. So the example of broken leg provides that we are not able to work with a broken leg because it hurts, okay? When we are talking about mental health, the first step to take care of your mental health, to be honest with yourself, to be aware of hotspots, which says to you, gives you a signal that I probably need to take care of myself, which does not necessarily mean that I need immediately to address the captain or to talk to mental health specialist, but I can take some simple, easy steps to take care of my mental health. I do admit that I aware and I acknowledge that I have mental health, and there might be, you know, some sort of hotspots, not even symptoms, which shows to myself that I need to take rest or to communicate with others, to talk with my family, which can be very good, supportive and resourceful thing. Or if I see that the problem is so high, I shouldn't shy. I must not shy to take a call or to give a call to mental health professional, which is going to be totally anonymous. That's the point which we need to deliver to the industry, to say, come on, we're human beings. Yes, we're tough, we're macho. However, even macho needs to have an opportunity to look into himself from the other angle. And if he struggles, if he feels emotion, or if he has emotions which are unbearable, there is no big problem to give a call to a mental health professional, which is fine. And because there is a myth behind that. So if I got mental problem or mental disease, that's incurable, means that's forever and I'm not going to recover. So that's a bullshit, sorry for words. So that's a myth. So people do recover, and we need time, and we have all chances to get back to normal conditions, to bounce back and become more resilient. That's the idea.
Christian, from you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There are two angles to this. The first one is how do you incentivize individuals to take care of their own mental health? And I fully accept that nobody's going to sit in the common area of a vessel, pick up the mobile phone or the handset in the middle of everybody and make a phone call to a mental health professional. What people need is a discreet service which they can check in their own time, in their own space, and feel comfortable about doing it. It has to be anonymous, and people have to feel that despite the fact everybody else on the vessel is an alpha male and disregards it, I myself feel that I have the right and the ability to manage my mental health. So you can put the facilities in place for that. But the second step of that is how to encourage people, individuals, that they can manage their mental health, they should manage their mental health, and that support is there if they need it. So that's something we have to work on. The second part is the organizational part of it. And you raised a good point. If you have a queue of 20 people waiting for this job, how do you tell an owner, or how do you persuade an owner that having crew who are supportive of mental health and are able to recognize their mental health is fundamentally good for owners? And I think this is possibly where my background as a lawyer comes in handy, because every time there is a claim or there is some instance of fault, the first thing people look at is the crew. And I think it's becoming more apparent that mental health and well-being is an easier area for somebody to point a finger at an owner and say, that accident, that incident was caused by one of your crew. We can't explain why they did it, and therefore there must be a mental health or a well-being issue behind it. Now, for an owner or a manager or whoever, if that happens, if they say, yes, an incident happened, but we have a network in place, a framework of support which runs from the top to the bottom of our organization, that's a lot stronger argument to say, actually, something might have happened, but it's unrelated to that. So I think the incentive is definitely there. And I hope next year that we as a group will be drivers for that change, but other actors in the industry will start seeing the importance of that as well. So insurers will see a where there is positive mental health and an atmosphere where it's encouraged, actually leads to less accidents, less incidents and less claims. Customers, charterers, majors, whoever will see that there's less likelihood of something bad occurring if you have a positive atmosphere and a positive notion towards mental health. So I think there are several different strands and several different parts who need convincing, but I think we definitely have the tools. We have the right people, we have the right support network. Our challenge now is how do we sit those people down and say, you must take care of this. This must become something your agenda, reason X, Y, Z. And that's what makes the next few years exciting.
And I tell you, Christian, I am delighted to hear your voice raising demand for statistics. I hope I'm not putting anything into your mouth, but that's how I read your message. You are telling me then it would be very nice from P&I clubs actually to know how many accidents are directly blah, blah, blah with mental health, for example. Now, the bad news is we do not have statistics. I was amazed when German Wings accident happened. I immediately I always follow the air industry accident investigation, and they were able to put finger on 5 suicidal flights, 5 in the history of air industry. Whether it is true or not, okay, maybe there were 7, maybe there were 4, but they are within a limit of know what's going on. Now, this is something which neither Alex or yourself, it's more pointing finger at NGOs like InterManager, Intercargo, Intertanko, ICS, BIMCO. That's the role we need to play to make sure that we do know what's causing problems with our people. But information for you, gentlemen, P&I clubs are not designed to look after seafarers, full stop. P&I clubs are designed to assist owners, and they will do everything to do that. So negligence of the crew is a brilliant example where owner will be paid huge amount of money. Costa Concordia, if it was proven that it was owner who managed to mess up, there will be no money paid. Now, Captain Scatino messed up? Oh yes. Billions are paid and so on and so forth. You may hear that as a huge accusation. Yes, I stand by that, what I'm saying, because I believe that's the root cause of our problem of mental health as well, because the way we are organizing shipping, blame is thriving. And as long as we thrive with blame, gentlemen, we will not see anybody coming forward and saying, I'm sorry, I had a bad day, I did this and that. Air industry had the same issue until they made it compulsory. And if you do not report and people find out, you are snookered for life. Therefore, I am probably advocating for something similar in shipping. It doesn't pay off to hide. It does not pay off to, and so on and so forth. We already discussed why people are doing that, but I would like to stress that as well. And if seafarers are listening to that, I'm pretty sure they would say, oh yes, somebody's talking about it. So think about money now. Seafarers very often are breadwinners, and we are earning really good money. Obviously, we can earn even more, but okay, we are what we are. And very often with the structure of tax and so on and so forth, that makes us a real breadwinners. Now, imagine pressure it puts on the individual. One day you are supplying money, you are providing for your wife, kids, in Philippines, broader family. And all of a sudden, do you guys think I've got the guts to come forward and say, I'm really sorry. I am completely washed out. I can't do that anymore. Very, very difficult, isn't it? Alex, over to you.
Well, you brought quite an interesting example with the Air Wings company and this suicidal pilot whose name was Andreas Lubitz. And to me, with maritime sector, if we there is no statistics, which I mean I'm pretty sure, because there were, I mean, not even if the investigation takes place, then it is not focused on the mental health of seafarer, because investigation is always about following or not following rules, protocols, guidance, etc., etc., etc. It's not about mental health. However, if we look into the all incidents, we can look into them from the angle of mental health. Whatever happens at sea, whatever incidents happen, I would take into consideration mental state of the person, you know, or people who are within the incident. If we take the case, for instance, you remember the case where one of captains ran the bridge, okay? He was escaping the Coast Guard, you remember that. Or other cases where they change the course and run somewhere. Is it a matter of mental health? Yeah, we can talk about the condition or state of mentality of a person who goes somewhere. Is it a part of mental health? Yes. Because someone would say, the guy was drunken. Is it a matter of mental health? Yes. The alcohol abuse is a part of mental health. So what I'm saying, yeah, when I'm meeting with seafarers, I'm in big groups, conferences, one of the questions I ask, please raise your hands those who know someone or who you worked with who needed mental health support. You know, I see normally 90–95% of seafarers raising their hands. They do admit that there are a lot of people working at sea, they need mental health support. And again, because people do take the mental health as a disease, so I would address to psychologists only if I have psychosis. No, come on, that's the time to address psychiatrists, not psychologists. Psychologists resolve, you know, your stress. They can advise you about your anxiety disorders, etc., etc. They can teach you and help you to develop more soft skills. So that's again, that's more about, I mean, the work we do is more about awareness and to bring to seafarers and to the industry understanding that people need to look into themselves and to take care about themselves. So that's my understanding, and that's my idea of talking about mental health with the maritime sector. Of course, we do not expect that everyone would address, you know, immediately mental health professionals. There is no need for that. Other thing, I've started from Andreas Lubitz. Look, why I brought, I mean, you gave a good example why I remember that. You know a little bit the system of the air companies, and they have very strict system of testing, and they have the huge army of medical doctors and mental health professionals for testing pilots, etc., etc., etc. Even there, they didn't manage to predict a behavior of the pilot. The idea is that, I mean, from the scientific perspective and from the practical point of view, if person wants to conceal his mental state, and if he is not in the hospital, yeah, he would manage to do that. That's the idea. However, the surrounding, the people who work with him have higher chances to see hotspots or symptoms of abnormal behavior. Why I'm saying that? If we start seafarers, if we start giving seafarers tips about mental health, then they will start to take care not just about themselves, but also about their colleagues. And then if you are, as a captain, see that me, myself, for instance, have a drop of my mood or my behavior looks suspicious, or my verbal markers, what I say, makes you suspicious, then you say, Alex, sorry, can I invite you to my cabin, please? And then if you know how, you can ask me several questions and say, you'd better go to your cabin and have a rest, or give a call to the company and say, I've got Alex on board and he probably needs immediate help. In these cases, you would probably save my life. And I have lots of examples like that, where captains or if company has procedures, crisis response procedures or suicide prevention procedures, and when top rank officers know hotspots, they're able to save someone's life. That's the idea. That's why we need to raise awareness, and we need to give a little bit more education about mental health for seafarers. That's my thought.
Okay, excellent. Christian, over to you before I move on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that I would add, apologies for the noise outside, my neighbour's drilling, is that I think the narrative to seafarers is that an honest conversation about their mental health can actually extend their career. So instead of working incredibly hard for 20 years, being burnt out, and then having, no professional life after that, having an open, honest conversation is actually a really good way of giving them that longevity, which means they can provide for their family and they can continue, being the main breadwinner. So I think a lot of it is about how we present that message, and we don't portray it as something which is a weakness, but actually there has a lot of benefits attached to it. And in the same way in America, everybody has, a family shrink on call, and it's it's nothing unusual to say, I'm off to see my shrink, and people recognize the benefit and the value. That's the conversation that's what we need to bring here. And we can definitely do that, but it's how we explain that message to people and get people to buy into it. But it's definitely there, and it's definitely bringing value. And it's our job to translate that into language and messages which people understand.
And I'm thinking, being realistically firmly aground here, then we've got a huge challenge in front of us, because we really, it's not the seafarers we need to talk to, it's the chief executives of this industry to persuade them. Then we need to set the leadership afoot and make sure that we know what we want and we know how to achieve that. Gentlemen, 15 minutes left, so I need to dive into COVID issues now, because I'm pretty sure people who are watching us today would love to say, okay, guys, you are talking very high blue sky thinking, but hey, get down, COVID, and what we are hearing now in UK, for example, and the reactions from the continent. That's the reality check for us. People panicking, there is a hysteria. And that's one thing. On the other hand, everybody, even the most hysterical guy, wants milk in his tea. But that means seafarers have to bring it. They want the iPhone, and the iPhone is on board of a container ship, which is coming now. They want the electricity, which is on board of a tanker now, and so on and so forth. Gentlemen, any advice to us, assuming that we have built resilience so far, but how to deal with now surrounding world, which is far less organized than on board of a ship, where we've got our structures, procedures, and we know very well what to do. And then all of a sudden we go back home, or we are trying to get home, or we are touching port, and we see this panic, hysteria and everything. Alex.
Well, I need to say I'm COVID veteran.
Indeed.
So having said that, you see me alive, which is a good news for me and for my family probably. So, starting from the beginning, from the outbreak of COVID, I've been looking into that from the psychological point of view, of course, because I'm not able to do with the medical point of view of COVID, besides distancing of myself, and advising everyone to put masks. However, what I need to say, you are absolutely right. That's the total world hysteria. And the main point, and I have a little bit of statistics. For seafarers themselves who are anxious about their families who stayed home, and I had a lot of calls from seafarers who think of their families, and they had anxiety and fear that their family member can get COVID. So for them, for their understanding that COVID is has extremely high fatality. My advice would be stop following news about COVID. To stop spreading COVID, we had to practice social distancing. To stop your anxiety, you need to stop, following media, which is 24/7. Coronavirus presents virtually negative. Media itself is a driver of thoughts. For instance, just a quick example, Center for Disease Control estimates that the seasonal flu in this year has killed between, 24 and 62,000 people just in United States. But people are not panicking. Question why? Because the seasonal flu is familiar and media does not give it attention. It's not interesting for media. Again, statistically, the vast majority of people who got infected with COVID have mild to moderate symptoms or no symptoms at all. Again, look, it just figures. Fatality rate is the total number of deaths, how they calculate it, divided by the total number of people that carry the infection, regardless of them having clinical symptoms or not. So what is the fatality rate then? It is the chance of death once you have the virus. You see? So, and the same center has determined the infection fatality rate, which is 0.5 for people who is 50, 69 years old, or 5.4 for people who is 70 plus. So that means that the majority of people do recover and do of COVID or do not get COVID at all. So in therapy, my patients, who address because of COVID problems, and most anxious of them are those who are consuming the most news from social media and looking for information about COVID. And what I usually say them, that more anxious you feel, the more you should distance from the media. And if you are extremely fearful, stop watching and reading altogether. Do not Google or research. Stop checking the latest news about virus, because we are all biased and suffering of confirmation bias. Means if we focus on negative, we will definitely find a lot of proofs that our negative thoughts will become true. So that's the idea. So again, I'm a live example that people do survive and getting back, and do recover. And again, the only thing you can do to wear a mask and follow all procedures and use social distancing. And you may focus on more pleasant and let's say practical things that you can do for yourself and for your family, rather than to be focusing on COVID problem. So that's my thought about COVID.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah.
For you,
I'm also a survivor of COVID. I had a very mild COVID to the current circumstances. I wouldn't have had a test or anything like that. It affects people in different ways, and I understand why people are worried, and I see why there would be some concern. I think it's quite right that the media does spread stories in order to get readers, and not everything they will say will be true. And there's an important lesson here that, again, organizations, people within groups should be encouraging people to think critically about what they're reading, what they're seeing, and really ask themselves, is it as bad as that? Or is somebody trying to make a story here? I think for everybody involved in marriage to end this as soon as possible. People are working exceptionally hard to try and find that solution. And I would encourage everybody listening to be proactive. So take up a new hobby, do something different, learn a language. I've learned the piano because I've recognized that staying at home for 7 days a week for the next few months isn't going to be terribly fun unless I have something to do that. And I guess my message in life is always push yourself each day to do something different. Don't spend time worrying about something which you cannot change and you have no influence over. Do something which will make you a better person. And again, my message to seafarers is do that. If you want to do something different, ask your person in charge who can help you get there. My message for organizations is look at what else you can give to seafarers onshore and onboard vessels to inspire their minds to spark that creativity. And I say that because I know companies are putting new fitness equipment on board. Some are providing free language courses. That's super positive. And again, it comes back to our conversation about how do you persuade organizations of the benefits of this. And look, I think everybody is an entrepreneur and everybody has the ability to influence change in a different way. And if nothing else, now is an excellent time for organizations to give that spark to people and say, look, we've got this problem, focus on this. What can you do to make the organization more efficient, to find out a way of working in a different place? So Corona is a big issue. It will be a big issue, but I think it's a real opportunity. It's an opportunity for individuals and organizations to really change the way they work. And I think being proactive and doing something about it is, the best medicine in this solution.
Gentlemen, we need to start wrapping up. Therefore, I would ask you a final question and give you 1 minute to answer it. Please recognize that we've got a lot of seafarers at home. And my gut feeling and my experience is that these are the people we need to look after, not those who are at sea necessarily. Those at sea are earning money. They are in the good protocols. They are in the area and comfort zone. They were educated to go to sea. They love being at sea. In majority cases, they would not admit that, but they like it. Now, those who are anxious to go to sea, they don't know when because they are still waiting for the gentleman who is on board to be relieved. They now hear about flight cancellations. They hear about new vaccination and everything. These guys who are now watching us, sitting at home and doing this, what would be your advice to them from home? They are away from organizations. I heard about hobby. I heard about piano. Something more realistic, guys, because not everybody has a piano at home. Over to you, Alex. 1 minute, please.
Well, if you are not able to change the situation, you are able to change your attitude towards the situation. So if seafarer is still at home and he's seeking for a new contract, but sees that there's nothing he can do, it might be probably a good time to develop some new skills. Additional, probably for his career at sea, or having or some other additional skills. That's a matter of our adaptivity, which is a part of our resilience. Because if the situation like you are not able to move, there is no sense for you just to sit and watch news, thinking of yourself that I'm a failure, I'm not able to find a job. You better do something to find some other way of earning money. Sometimes it can be a solution. I'm not in a position where I'm able to give a remedy for everyone, but seafarers sometimes find a job even being on shore, because if seafarers are breadwinners, and if he stays home for a long period of time, he can probably can find a job in a training center, or can do something useful for himself and for his family. Some seafarers I know, they start to work as the taxi drivers or something else, because it gives you an opportunity to support your family while you're waiting for a new contract. If you are a captain, you can probably get employed and do some work for office. I don't know. I have brilliant examples of active captains who do some office work within crewmaning agencies, and which gives them an opportunity to keep their hand on the pulse on the one hand, to communicate with others, to learn something new on the other. So there are lots of options in our life.
Okay, Alex, thank you. There was 2.5 minutes, Alex.
Sorry?
Christian, 1 minute.
Yeah, so look, I think I would say, first of all, look around you. If you're surrounded by your family, your home country, enjoy it. There might not be another time in your life you get this opportunity. Deep breath in and think how lucky you are. And second, do what you can. My message would be, I would love to hear from people who are sat at home, maybe wondering about their next employment, having something lined up. I'd love to have a conversation with you, understand what situation you're in, and then how we can use this to work, as a working group, change of industry or put pressure on people to make a difference. So be proactive, change. We can use that energy and creativity which everybody has. If people would like to contact me, I'd love to hear from them. But otherwise, be positive and be mindful of the situation. But fundamentally, it could be worse.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. 1 minute left. As a wrap up of everything, I would say, if you believe that your situation is difficult, look out for somebody who is in the worst situation and help him. Once you start helping other people, you will realize how much resources you've got in yourself, what you can do. And sometimes it's cynical, but you will see, bloody hell, I'm not that bad off, actually. There are some people who really scream for help and assistance, and you can get out and you can do that. Organizations are waiting for volunteers. Organizations are looking for charity workers and so on and so forth. So don't put yourself down. You are not that bad. Everything is up here, as Alex says. Change your attitude. Yes, we can do that. And we are seafarers, guys, so we are pretty resilient. Now, this has been recorded and it will be posted on our organization's websites, social media, and so on and so forth. So share that with others. Stay tuned, because we will continue. And obviously, as Christian is appealing to you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please send us your questions or get in touch. If we've got more of the same question, then no doubt we will address that in our next meeting. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to be your host today. Take care and speak soon. Cheerio, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Safe sailing.
Thank you.
Cheers.